You ready to let the dogs out?
What? Do what?
Let the dogs out. Like, who let the dogs out? Who?
Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com. Your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. Always available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Always available wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Here we go. He is Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. On this Friday, you made it. So I hope that you had a fantastic work week, as it just now feels like we're kind of getting back in the rhythm of being regular workers with New Year's and Christmas or whatever holiday you might celebrate. So kind of back in the rhythm as we get into late January. And I have to be honest with you, I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic. When you talk about the second signing day, it is the second most important signing day. And welcome on board. Please hit the like button. It helps us reach more viewers, and we greatly appreciate that. But we got some Cam Pringle talk. We got some recruiting talk. We got some stuff going on. This used to be hot stuff when you were just outside of the first Wednesday in February. Now that day just kind of passes by, and it's National Signing Day, but you may pick up 3 or 4 guys. But Caleb, the Cam Pringle thing and some other movement out there in the recruiting world, I think is pretty intriguing. It reminds me of years gone by.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's there were always, even since the early signing period started, there have always been like a select few of stars that still waited till National Signing Day. I believe the first year of the early signing period was 2017, and I believe Tennessee got burned on National Signing Day. Quay Walker, I think they expected to commit to them on National Signing Day, and I think committed to Georgia. So yeah, it creates a little bit of fun. I will say that it basically turns January into an entire month of just recruiting and transfer news, which was not the case back in the day, because you recap the recruiting class from the early signing period, the transfer portal's open, and National Signing Day is coming up soon.
Definitely. And Tennessee is, like every other school, going to be more involved with transfer portal stuff in January than they are going to be with just straight up recruiting, high school recruiting like it used to be. And I get that. And Tennessee, it was a bit of a surprise. We were actually on the air yesterday. I think you have to regrade if we were to do a grade of the transfer portal and Tennessee's success or lack thereof. So as a reminder, the portal closed on Wednesday, but you can still take people so that they don't get just lost in the portal. And our own Caleb Jarreau will join us a little bit later in the program, and we'll get a breakdown of where Tennessee is in the transfer portal and this class. But a breaking one yesterday, and another BYU transfer that I think can definitely fill an incredible hole for the Vols that Tennessee just has to get better on defense. A report card on Tennessee's defense in 2022 will be up, and Caleb gave me the difficult one. He took the offense. Everybody's A something. On me, it was everybody C something at best. But definitely, I think based off what happened on yesterday, Tennessee is better off in the transfer portal than they were just a couple of days ago. And good morning to you, John. Good big orange morning from John Hill. What do you think of where Tennessee is in the transfer portal with their latest edition?
Yeah, we were breaking it down yesterday, and I think adding Gabe Jeudy-Lally from BYU that puts them in much better shape. Particularly, you remember this, Dave. Last year they missed to a certain degree. They went for secondary help in the transfer portal, and they may have gotten one. They may have found one guy in Wesley Walker, but it sounds like they missed on Andre Tarantine. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds like that was just a whiff. And that's going to happen in the transfer portal every now and then. So they go back out this time and they pick a proven starter at 2 different schools. And we'll obviously have Jarreau come on a little later to break him down a little more. And I think that, but just on the surface, here's a guy who has started in the SEC, started at BYU this past year. And so there's a lot of proven experience that he brings to the secondary. Whereas last year, I remember, and I think Heupel's going to go this route more in the future. Last year when he went after Andre Turrentine, that was basically like getting another commitment. Turrentine was a 4-star DB who had played 1 year at Ohio State, barely played. That was all about potential. And now I think you see Heupel going more for proven commodities in the transfer portal more than guys with potential, if that makes sense.
Even though I agree with you, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. Andre Turrentine, I really felt like him and Wesley Walker were a little bit overhyped. Now, Walker lived up to the hype, but let me play devil's advocate with Turrentine. He could still have a good career at Tennessee. You're talking about a guy that didn't play very much at Ohio State. I felt like because of the 4-star ranking and he had played at Ohio State, that when he comes in, Tennessee fans a lot thought, hey, he should start and he should be the guy. That certainly wasn't the case. He was nowhere really in the rotation or even close that we know of. So I think you're right, but it wouldn't stun me if Andre Turrentine was a factor this year. I think he has the physical ability, or am I reaching on Turrentine?
Oh, you might be right on that. It could just be that expectations were set a little too high. Maybe he needed a year to just kind of figure it out. We see that a lot of times with players, particularly in the secondary, where they just really emerge out of nowhere sometimes. And so that might happen with Turrentine next year. I mean, it happened with, they say it happened with Danico Slaughter this past year, but I think the coaches talked him up a lot more than what I saw from him in game film, or Tamarion McDonald too. But to be fair, they got their way into the rotation, which they weren't really factors the year before. So you're right. The secondary is very fluid. Warren Burrell's coming back, by the way, from a season-ending injury, which we don't know what type of factor he'll be. I think the thing that's very clear with Tennessee, though, and this was the fundamental problem last year, and I still think it's going to be the fundamental problem this year. They don't have a number one cornerback. They don't have a cornerback that can guard the top receiver, and they haven't had one since Alontae Taylor left at the end of 2021.
Agreed. No.
And so,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, totally agree.
No, it's okay. Yeah, no, I think that, and when you don't have that, we look at Trey Flowers' NFL potential, and I think he actually has some NFL potential, but it didn't show because he was covering up for so many shortcomings at cornerback, which happens with safeties a lot of times. A great example of that, Dave, would be, wouldn't it be, we talked about him in the past, but two guys that come to mind for me were Rashad Baker and Jonathan Hefney. I think I remember Jonathan Hefney, his last year as free safety, really had to cover up for a lot of shortcomings at cornerback, and it really hurt his draft stock because he almost could have left after his junior year.
No, Hefney was definitely hurt by what he did for the team. And there are players that are like that. One was Mitchell. I can't remember his first name. Linebacker, played with a torn ACL for the remainder.
Jason Mitchell.
Yes, Jason Mitchell. He was an incredible athlete. He wanted to give his all for the Vols, and good for him, but it probably hurt his NFL potential. I thought that Baker was similar. Honestly, I thought Baker should have been a receiver from the get, if you want me to be real frank with you. I thought Hefney also was a guy that bounced around a lot of different positions. That probably hurt him as well. And it's not to say you can't rise to the top. You can, but you make that early impression on NFL scouts, and sometimes that's tough to change. You get drafted as a cornerback or you get drafted as a safety, and you're talking about a 52-man roster. That's a lot different than having 85 guys. So you can get pigeonholed into that position, and it might not be the best position for you. You'll be in a great position if you go to Vols Automotive Group. Vols Automotive Group on Callahan, the epicenter of car buying, right there in Knoxville. Vols Automotive Group is absolutely fantastic. So check them out. They want, they need, and they appreciate your business, and just unbelievable when it comes to their integrity there, and same for their service department. They'll get your car running with what you need and not just with what they want to sell you. How about that? I hadn't even thought of Mitchell's name. By the way, hit the like button. It helps us. And if you haven't set your notifications on our audio channels, which is Apple, which is Spotify and all that, set the notifications on, because just in the past couple of days, We've posted interviews that we've had with Jacob Warren. We are always posting interviews with Cooper Mays and on and on and on. So a lot of stuff on there in addition to the Daily Show, which airs every day at 10. I hadn't thought of the Mitchell name in a long, long time. You start talking about guys, and maybe this is a column idea for us, but you start talking about guys that have given their all for Tennessee. One that I would rank up there, now it worked out for him, would be Jason Witten. Didn't want to move from defensive end to tight end. That obviously worked out, and that was fantastic. But there are guys who have clearly made decisions that do not help their pro future by decisions they make in college to play more or play different positions. That happens a lot, and we'll see if that continues to happen with NIL money, how that affects it. But certainly I think there are players that have done that before. But in the end, who?
Sean Bryson comes to mind. Bryson could have been a running back at so many other places, and he willingly played fullback at Tennessee.
No, he and especially okay. So he was fast. He didn't have the shiftiness to me, but he definitely could have played. He could have been a starting tailback at Tennessee. He could have been a starting tailback at any school in the nation. But especially, have you ever thought about Sean Bryson as a potential dot the I tailback in the Big Ten? Is that?
Oh my God, he would have been perfect.
I mean, you don't have to worry about the shiftiness as much. You're running between the tackles. You have power. You're punishing people with the combination of speed and power. That's crazy good.
Yeah. I think of him as like he would have been the perfect Wisconsin running back. Wisconsin always get those north-south runners behind the elite offensive linemen. So, yeah.
Travis brings up, and Travis, I'm not sure how old you are, but Jeremy Banks moving to linebacker got him to the NFL. Absolutely. So there are moves that help you get to the NFL that help the team as well. But Travis, I'll give you some more. How about this? How about Tennessee's entire starting linebacker core in '98? Al Wilson played tailback. Now everybody knew he was going to play linebacker in college, but Eric Westmoreland, Dominique Stevenson. I could go on and on and on of guys that did play tailback and were moved to running back. That was kind of the end thing to do, and they could learn it because John Chavis's defense wasn't really that complicated. So, Travis, that's good stuff. I like that. So, as far as Tennessee headed into the weekend, I think the one you want to watch more than anything is Cam Pringle. So now you have some experts predicting him to South Carolina based off his high school coach. Now he's out of Woodland High School in Dorchester, South Carolina. Based off of his high school coach, he was down to 2 schools and has made his decision. We'll have coverage of that Sunday at 2:00 on Off the Hook Sports. I could be surprised. We're talking about a 2024 young man. Certainly things could change, but I think Georgia is very much in there. They flew a helicopter to go see him like Lane Kiffin did in Atlanta one year. I think South Carolina's in there. I think Clemson's in there. This, to me, seems like the type of guy, and I could be wrong, that Tennessee won't get in 2023. But if Shane Beamer is the coach, I think he is, and not the one that finished the season fantastically well. If he's the coach that I think he is, which isn't very good, and if Dabo Swinney's anywhere close to retiring or that program continues to trend down, I think this is the type of guy that Tennessee gets in 2026. May not make you feel good this year or this weekend, but I think Tennessee is really in the battle for these type of guys and winning against Georgia in a couple more years with a little bit more under Josh Heupel's belt. You?
No, I agree. I think a bigger deal for Tennessee, and this is going to be weird to say because it may not work out, they might want to hope that he doesn't end up at South Carolina or Clemson. I've talked in the past, and you have to, about how the recruiting battles for Tennessee, South Carolina to a certain degree is almost a ground zero spot for Tennessee. And you're going to, Georgia's going to rack up elite recruits no matter what. But you need South Carolina and Clemson to kind of falter as programs if you want to stay where you want Tennessee to stay at. And so I think at that point, I think it's I think it's better for Tennessee if Cam Pringle commits to Georgia or Alabama than it is if he commits to Clemson or South Carolina.
I would have to agree with that. Because I think if you're Tennessee in recruiting, you're kind of picking off the weak and the weaker, maybe I should say. I think South Carolina, and nobody's going to argue this, South Carolina and Clemson are weaker than Georgia is right now. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. It makes Georgia stronger. Would you rather him go to Georgia and Georgia be stronger, or would you rather him go to South Carolina and Clemson and maybe keep them at their state or raise them above? I hadn't thought of it like that, but you bring up a good point. Is he better off going to Georgia, and Georgia's just darn good anyway?
Yeah, I think it's better off for Tennessee if he goes to Georgia. I mean, if he doesn't go to Georgia, is Georgia really going to is that really going to weaken Georgia at all in the future? No. Georgia's loaded with talent down the line, and that's not really changing anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be in the 2025 championship game and say, man, if we'd have got Cam Pringle. The Buckeyes wouldn't have stood a chance had we had Cam Pringle.
Yeah, they're not going to say that. They're not going to say that. South Carolina, on the other hand, might be like, man, we could have been a top 25 team this year if we had Cam Pringle as our right tackle or left tackle. They might be able to say that. Georgia's not going to say, you're right, that's not going to change with Georgia. So,
Dad blamed Cam, didn't get Cam, and everything goes off the rails. Portions of the program brought to you by Vassy Lawn and Garden. Man alive, it's worth the drive in Cleveland. If you need industrial mowers and you're in Knoxville, Nashville, Chattanooga, it doesn't matter. Especially if you're in Cleveland, they've got industrial mowers, they've got the commercial mowers, and they also have the residential mowers, blowers, and everything right there at Vassy Lawn and Garden. Man alive, it's worth the drive. And then a young man makes his debut. Your thoughts on what, I'll let you pronounce his last name, what Freddie was able to do in his first Tennessee practice on Thursday. Your thoughts?
I mean, he looks like he's ready to go now. He's going to redshirt for this year, and then he's going to start in 2023, 24. But, he's a shooting guard. He plays very good defense, it looks like, which that, Rick Barnes loves defensive players.
One of the videos, ironically, was him and our own Caleb Jarreau mentioned this, was him turning the ball over from Zakai Ziegler. That had to be a oops moment. That's not the one you want to go viral.
Yeah, it I guess it fuels your feelings, Dave, that Zakai is one of those frustrating players, but he's who Zakai Ziegler is like, is he's like Manu Ginobili, where Manu, if you remember, was like, you wanted to, if you were a Spurs fan, or if you picked the Spurs to win, which I did a lot of times, you had moments where you were just like, get him off the court. Just stop. He's horrible. But then he's got a game in the playoffs where you're like, I want to buy him dinner afterward because he balls out and saves you. And I mean, 2013 NBA Finals, if Manu was on the bench, the Spurs probably win that. And LeBron, that's another ring LeBron doesn't have. 2014 NBA Finals, Manu balls out. And so it's kind of, you don't know what you're going to get.
I don't have anything personal against Zakai Ziegler, and I root for most all college athletes to be the best they can be, but I can't stand watching that dude play. I'm just gonna be. Am I alone on that message board? People, hit the like button and let me know what you think, because
Bull in China shop.
Bullet. Oh, that's a good one, and so incredibly inconsistent. I mean, not just inconsistent from game to game, but half to half. I feel like if they split it into quarters, it'd be quarter to quarter. I mean, it just to me. And like on the verge of out of control at all times. Ron Slay, I mentioned Tony Harris's name. He agreed with me. Tony Harris was a guy out there, you had no idea what you were going to get on a particular night or afternoon on the weekend. You had zero idea.
Yeah, Tony, I always get mixed on my feelings on Tony Harris because I know there's a lot of criticism of those Tennessee teams as underachieving. And I think Tony Harris really took the brunt of the blame for that 2000-2001 team, the biggest. But I think so much of that was horrible coaching by Jerry Green at the same time. And I think
one of my favorite, can I tell you one of my favorite stories about Jerry Green? So can I tell you that I forgot to turn my phone off? One of my favorite stories about Jerry Green is right before the NCAA tournament. And this is so like the NCAA tournament game was like on a Friday, okay, the opening round. And so you've really got 3 days to practice because on a Friday game, but they would do the press conferences on Thursday. So you've got 3 days to practice once you know your opponent. And I'm not going to mention this reporter, but he's very esteemed, and you read him a lot, and he's one of the most talented writers, I believe, that has ever worked in East Tennessee. And so Jerry Green goes out there, and it's like he just didn't have time to put a plan together, and he goes, all right, and I do a pretty good Jerry Green impression. We're just going to do 2 hours of street ball. And that was the preparation on a Monday before the NCAA tournament. And they did. They just scrimmaged and went up and down the court, not running plays. It was fun to watch, but just up and down the court for 2 hours before the NCAA tournament. And the writer that I was referring to, who never curses and was one of the greatest men I know, said, GD, this is bleeping ridiculous.
So what you're saying is everything negative said about Jerry Green sounds like it was true. He just rolled the ball out for a bunch of players that Kevin O'Neill got for him.
My other I'll illustrate it with this. My other favorite story about Jerry Green is, remember, he was accused on ball calls of playing golf during the season. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. I know the whole go to Kmart reference that. I didn't know the golf.
Yeah, that's a good one too. That's a good one too. But the golf thing was around that time when it was getting hot. And so Jerry Green said, just out of nowhere, he may have had a couple of pops before ball calls every night because he would do it by phone. I think he had, maybe a martini or 8. And so he would just insert things that weren't even asked. Poor Bob Kessley, and I felt sorry for him. But one thing he said, and Bob, before I get off here, I just wanted to answer the question if I played golf during the season. And I'm like, oh, don't go there. I'm listening on a lot of radio driving home. And he goes, well, I've never played golf during the season. Kid you not. The next week, Chris Lowe and I were having a discussion after covering practice about something else, now with ESPN. We were in a different hallway at Thompson Bowling Arena. So we had a discussion for about 30 minutes. So at that point, all the reporters were gone. At least that's what Jerry Green thought. He walks away from practice, out of Thompson Bowling Arena with a golf bag on his arm as Chris and I went out the other way, and we saw him, and he looked like Santa Claus had been caught on Christmas Eve. That is, I will put my hand on a Bible. That is a true story. He left practice with a golf bag on his shoulder while they were practicing inside, heading out the door.
Oh my gosh. Well, if he was a brilliant tactician, you could forgive him, because I know stories that Steve Spurrier would actually say, guys, let's wrap up practice so I can go golfing, when he was in the NFL every now and then. But Steve Spurrier was such a great game planner. He really didn't mind.
Yeah, this wasn't that case. We're going to talk Tennessee recruiting next. Caleb Jarreau, are you ready and fired up?
Oh, yeah. Let's get it done.
All right, we're going to get it done in exactly 2 minutes. Hang tight. Guardian Investment Advisors is who you need to get in touch with when you're thinking about where to put your money. They'll show you where to put it and why. Guardian Investment Advisors, go to GIAplantoday.com. GIAplantoday.com. Talking recruiting next. Hit that like button so we can get more people on board. If you haven't subscribed now, what do you think? And you got to do that. So we're breaking down Tennessee football recruiting and where they stand, as we are roughly 15 days, I believe, away from National Signing Day Part 2. Back in 2 minutes. Guardian Investment Advisors.
Has risen to the highest level in over 40 years, according to the April 2022 U.S. Inflation Calculator. Will your investments provide you the income you need in retirement? Are you losing purchasing power of your savings due to inflation? Simply stated, if the cost of goods and services are 8% higher and you're only earning 4% in your investments, that money buys you less of what you need. Right now is the time to act. Call Guardian Investment Advisors today.
Hey folks, Gary Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant. It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli-style subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Chattanooga, we're at it again. For the 5th year in a row, you voted us best of the best criminal and DUI law firm.
And finalists for best law firm and best personal injury firm.
Thank you for the love, Chattanooga. We won't let you down.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at ccteyes.com.
I want to remind you that Zool Beer is the official craft beer of Off the Hook Sports. Go to ZoolBeer.com to learn more. Great location downtown, and they have parking in Knoxville, which you don't find very often. XULBeer.com, ZoolBeer.com, XULBeer.com. Hit the like button. We appreciate that. Turn your notifications on, please, if you're on Spotify or Apple, because we're adding stuff all the time. Maybe even a regular recruiting report at some point. There's been some stuff I've been kicking around, and the guy who's on top of it is our own Caleb Jarreau. Caleb, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
I'm well. You have way more headspace than us. So can you pull your...
I thought I guessed right.
Calhoun's the opposite. He looks like he's sitting on a chair. Compared to me. I look at the video, I'm like, man, Caleb's kind of like Johnny Carson. He's got the big high seat where he looks down on his guest. But
he's just very tall and handsome.
Very tall and handsome. He's had 8 wives like Johnny Carson. But I don't think that's he's
just one. One is enough.
Yeah. I mean, well, I didn't say multiples at the same time. Travis said Jarreau needs a booster seat. He's not that young. But you have to be young to cover recruiting. Cam Pringle, a guy that I know Tennessee would love to add, is going to make his announcement on Sunday. What can you tell us about that young man?
He is massive, 6'7", 338, and right now he goes to Woodland High School in Dorchester, South Carolina, and right now he's playing center for them on the basketball court. So imagine a 6'7", 338-pound offensive lineman coming at you going for a rebound. But he ranks as the #1 offensive tackle out of South Carolina, #1 recruit. He's top 50 in the nation. He's #1 recruit out of South Carolina. He's top 50 in the nation. And then his top 6 consisted of Tennessee, South Carolina, Clemson, NC State, Georgia, and Florida. So all of these coaches have been taking trips down this week to see him. Kirby Smart was there. Shane Beamer brought his offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, tight ends coach, and himself all down to Woodland for one of Cam's basketball games. And the crazy thing about all this is these coaches aren't allowed to talk to Cam when they're on Woodland's campus. They're not allowed to contact 2024s off of their college campus. So really they're just going to watch him and make an appearance, and then they leave and call him, I guess, from the parking lot and talk to him. So he's also expected to see NC State's offensive line coach today, and I'm pretty sure Josh Heupel will make an appearance either at his basketball game tonight or at Woodland High School today. So obviously he's a South Carolina kid. It seems like he's leaning South Carolina. That's what 24/7 Sports, Brian Dawn, their national recruiting guy, that's what he predicts, is that he'll become a Gamecock. I've also seen a lot of people think that he's a Clemson guy as well. He's been flirting with them since he started his recruitment. So that'll be interesting to watch. I don't think Tennessee's in the best place, but Heupel will be there today, and I'm sure they'll talk, and we'll see what happens on Sunday.
John asked somebody that want to get to Calhoun, eating dry Cheerios from a Tupperware bowl. Is somebody doing that? Are you guys doing that? Is that you? I have no idea what that comment means, but I do that on occasion. By the way, the helicopter thing with Kirby Smart, is that just showmanship, or is that like really like a thing? Because Lane Kiffin did it way back when. Calhoun, I'm sure you remember this.
I remember that.
And first of all, the helicopter looked like it was from MASH. I didn't know that it was going to. I didn't know that it was going to make it from one spot to another. I mean, it didn't. Do you remember that, Calhoun? It did not look safe at all. I mean, it was like a little two-seater.
Oh, I didn't know what the helicopter looked like. Oh, okay. So John says eating, because you said I was sitting in a high chair, so eating.
Oh, I got you. Well, okay, so yeah, I understood, and I happened to be in Atlanta, actually looking into NCAA violations by Lane Kiffin, but I understood because of the traffic why you would want to go from one high school to another. But just on like when did Kirby Smart do this? This was yesterday. And he's got the big, nice helicopter. They land on the field. Just everybody. Is that really for logistical purposes to get around? Or is that, I'm cool, I'm Kirby Smart, I have a helicopter and you don't?
Well, he also took his helicopter to visit Tennessee now early enrollee Shamarad Umarov, who lived in Alpharetta. And he said when Kirby Smart landed on his football field at lunchtime in the middle of the school day, all the students were clamoring to find out who was flying a helicopter under their school. And also Shane Beamer and his whole offensive staff landed a helicopter in the front lawn of Cam Pringles High School. I guess that was either Tuesday or Wednesday now. So
let me ask.
And I don't know what, because I don't think I've never been to Columbia, but I don't think there's enough traffic going from Columbia to Woodland to warrant a helicopter.
We're one of the worst stadium experiences in the SEC, Columbia.
Really? I had a great time there.
You don't like Sandstorm?
There was nothing but a Bojangles within miles of the stadium. It's like it's designed for tailgating, which is fine, but I'd like a few bars within walking distance.
Damn. No, that is true. It's off in the middle of like a train yard.
Yeah.
We'll give you that. And signs that say "Go Cox" everywhere. They're not shameful of that whatsoever. And I mean, they just dropped the game like 50 years ago. They just go Cox. And and they have fantastic mustard barbecue sauce. But my thing is, you fly in this helicopter. I get it for, to get around in traffic, because Lane Kiffin one time, I think he saw 6 high school games on a Friday night. I get it. You could not have gotten through all around without a helicopter. So he take this little whirly bird that he's lucky he didn't crash and die in. But Kirby Smart has the real thing, man. This thing looks like it is, oh my gosh. What you might remember this, Calhoun. What was the helicopter that had rockets on it and that flew around and all that stuff? It was basically a knockoff of Knight Rider in the 80s. Do you remember this?
Dave, I was born in 88. I wasn't watching 80s TV shows like
old. All right, so, okay, so but let me ask you this. Is it more the image, do you guys think, or is it actually, hey, I need to get from place to place? Because I think it's image. I think it's image of showing up in a helicopter. I think it's the fact that we retweet it. What do you all think?
I think it's the I think it's the image, because I mean it was Wednesday, June 19th, or January 19th, excuse me. Like, it's not like he's going high school to high school in South Carolina this early and trying to pick up guys. So I don't think it's that. Now, I also don't think, would Kirby Smart take it from Athens to South Carolina? Or is he getting there and then fly? I don't know. I think it's the image. Now, if you like Lane Kiffin going high school to high school makes sense. And if it's his old helicopter 2-seater that barely flies, then I don't think he's really trying to impress anybody with that. He might just be trying to make it from game to game. But I don't think in January that taking a helicopter is for anything other than looks. Get the school talking.
Who was Lane Kiffin picking up in that 2-seater in the helicopter? Okay, sorry.
Well, that's true. And did he crash in the helicopter and the police let him go? That's the other. Did he have a couple of co-eds? By the way, it's Airwolf, guys. And if you haven't watched Airwolf, that is the greatest helicopter drama series of the 1980s. Now, the list is short. It's not a big list of those, but that is the best one by far. All right, Calhoun, take it away. Let's see what Jarreau's got in recruiting.
All right, Jarreau, I want to move to yesterday because we were doing the show live when BYU transfer Gabe Jeudy-Lally transferred to Tennessee. Played 3 years at Vanderbilt, then last year at BYU. You got a good column. Everybody should check it out on Off the Hook right now. Jarreau's got one on him. What can Tennessee expect from him? I think that they're looking for him to start immediately, and they need help at cornerback. But how likely is that? How effective can he be?
I would be very surprised if he didn't start immediately because, I mean, you look at the list of guys who they have coming back at cornerback, and it's really not anybody – I don't want to say decent, but Tennessee's Jeudy-Lally on PFF, Pro Football Focus, graded about 27-ish among eligible cornerbacks. So he wasn't in the top group that's going, and he wasn't anything special, but he was a lot higher than Tennessee's highest guy who fell in the 80-90 range of eligible cornerbacks. And that was their highest graded guy. So you look at something like that and you wonder what is going to keep Jeudy-Lally off the field. I mean, he's not playing safety, so he doesn't have to worry about complex defensive schemes and checking everybody else. All you have to do is put him on the field and say, hey, guard this guy, or hey, guard this area of the field, which he's done for 4 years in college football. So he started 10 games for Vanderbilt in 2021 before transferring to BYU. In his 3 seasons at Vandy, he had 63 tackles, 2 for loss, and 2 picks. And one of his picks came off of JT Strout when he was in a Tennessee uniform. And then he had 47 tackles and 7 pass breakups at BYU. So no interceptions, but then you also think if people aren't passing at him, then you kind of figure they have some respect for him. And then you look at Tennessee's pass defense last season. They finished 127th in the nation out of 131 teams. So I don't understand why Jeudy-Lally wouldn't be on the field. And I'm very happy they finally got a defensive back because that was definitely what I thought was their biggest need. Because, I mean, they have Jordan Matthews coming in who could probably play as a true freshman, but I don't think you want to rely on a true freshman when you get into October, November, and every game is life or death basically for your season.
I also think, too, I'm not trying to rip on any of the guys there, and I would say that Danico Slaughter may be the exception. But when I just look for the eye test physical guys that have that sort of ability to play at a high level at defensive back in the SEC, how many guys are on that list that are on the roster right now? Let me start with you, Calhoun.
That have NFL potential playing in defensive back in the SEC?
That could be coached up. That it's not an issue of talent. It's an issue of something else.
So I agree with you with Danico Slaughter. I mean, if we're sticking with cornerback, I would believe Christian Charles could be coached up, and he hasn't yet. But it's like he's so fast. Like it's.
I could roll with Charles too. Excuse me.
Yeah. But you're right. Mainly just those two, and the cornerback spot. I can't think of anything else. And
of course, Wesley Walker is a player. I think we all.
I was gonna say Wesley Walker, but I think he's a safety.
Right.
Or a nickel. Yeah.
Yeah. So he wouldn't be in a spot Jeudy-Lally would be competing for, and you have to have in their defense. I mean, you also want to have fresh legs at cornerback as much as you can. How many snaps they play, and how much they're running. So I mean, for 4 years, he's either played man or he knows like how basic the like cover 3, cover 1, like where to be on the field. So I don't see why he wouldn't start, especially, I mean, Wesley Walker, I thought he would play a little more this season coming in, but then you also have to think about maybe at safety, it took him a little longer than expected to realize you have a lot more responsibility. You're basically quarterbacking the defense once the ball's in play. So I guess that may have kept him off the field, but I would think Wesley Walker would have the highest ceiling, really.
I want to ask you about Nico, and he's going to be in the Polynesian Bowl. But first, just so you guys don't think I'm crazy, can you see that right now? Can you?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
You can see Airwolf. That was a thing. That was Knight Rider in the air. That's exactly what that was. And you can get all 79 episodes if you want. So free plug for Airwolf, a very underrated show in the 1980s. Calhoun, you got to get on board with that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What are these puppets? But like, I don't think this is Airwolf. You're so. I think this is like a promo code or something else, Dave.
Yeah, I think it is. But anyway, the point is, Airwolf was a thing. That's my point. I don't know.
The backdrop of these like ridiculous little puppets, like
yeah,
I'm thinking like Cranky Anchors, Comedy Central, early 2000s with this.
Game on.
Well, that's just a loud commercial. We tried. Airwolf, though, is
oh my goodness,
was fantastic. You have to check out Airwolf. Tennessee Junior says freaking loved Airwolf. That's absolutely right. So, like the flipper floppers, whatever they call them, the propellers, would that be right? They would actually bend back, and it would turn into like this jet, and it had rockets and all this stuff.
Oh my gosh!
Like the Star Wars planes,
except better.
Seems like another just slobberfest of the military-industrial complex, but
it literally was Knight Rider with a helicopter. You remember Knight Rider, don't you, Caleb? Calhoun?
I didn't watch Knight Rider, so no, I don't really remember it.
I watched Knight Rider.
Knight Rider rocks. All right, guys. Nico is the Polynesian Bowl. So classes haven't started yet, right? But who really cares? You play football.
Cardell Jones.
I mean, all of this is so funny. We talk about transfers and cash, and you're like, at some point when they're making appearances and things, do they have to go to English 101? Anyway, he's in the Polynesian Bowl. What do you make of that? It's way out west. What do you think of Nico and the fact that he was recently? His practices were so good in December as Tennessee's preparing for the Orange Bowl that it changed his ranking to number 1. That's phenomenal.
So what do you think?
Best scout team quarterback in America.
Right. Yes.
No,
best Cade Klubnik impersonator of all time.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think it'll be on at 9:00 tonight on NFL Network, and so it'll be interesting to see how he does against everybody. There is a Power 5 talent. Now, it's not necessarily the best all-star game, but it'll be fun to see how he runs that offense and how he does. And he's looked really good at practice, and a lot of people have raved, and he's been called the best performer by CBS and 247 Sports. And he also, during an interview, said that he was ready to compete. He came to Tennessee to compete for the starting job. So I think that's worth noting that he said that. And he said he'll accept whatever role he's in, but he basically, long story short, said he didn't come to Tennessee to sit as the second string. So I think we're in for a good quarterback competition. And honestly, that'll start tonight to see how he plays. Because if he can't dice up other Power 5 soon to be freshmen, I don't think he would be able to dice up SEC defenses.
Agree or disagree from both of you? I wrote a column that Josh Heupel is happy with this quarterback room, and he is not going to make some vast change when the portal opens back up. People can enter it in late spring. I think he's fine with Joe Milton and Nico. I think he looks at them as one of those guys is going to be the starter this year and beyond. And maybe it would make sense that it would be Joe Milton first, and then Nico would take over at some point. But I'm not even sure that's the case. I would not be stunned, and I'm going to go on record saying this. Despite how Joe Milton played in the Orange Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Nico's a starter by the end of September. I think the schedule is very friendly to bring in a freshman quarterback and get him ready to go. I'm not 100% on board with Joe Milton, despite the fantastic Orange Bowl performance. But at the end of the day, my contention was by not taking a quarterback, by letting Taven Jackson go and maybe saying, wink, wink, Taven Jackson, you should go. I think those are his two dudes, and he wants to split snaps in spring practice between those two guys. Any disagreement or thoughts on that? Travis says it's Bazooka's job to lose. I'm not so sure that Nico couldn't overcome him.
I think Heupel's going to give favorability to Joe Milton. Not because I think just Joe Milton was his first major signee that committed as a quarterback. We've seen this in the past. I think he really likes Joe Milton, kind of the senior thing. I think so. I think there's going to be favorability there. Look, if Joe Milton plays how he played against Clemson and he wins the job, he's not losing it. But he shocked us all with that. But again, months to prepare, so we'll see what happens. But I could definitely see Nico getting it, and don't, God forbid, don't forget about this. Injuries could come into play too.
It's true. Jarreau, your thoughts?
I think looking at it from a recruiting perspective, Heupel's not going after very many. Obviously, he has offers extended to 2024 quarterbacks, but he's not heavy on a lot of these guys. So I think that shows that he's happy with his quarterback room he has now. He sees Joe Milton as the starter, presumably next season, the way it looks right now. And then you have Nico behind him. And they're going heavy on a 2025 quarterback, Cutter Boley, from Lexington Christian Academy in Lexington, Kentucky, number 1 guy out of Kentucky and number 4 quarterback in the class. So much so that he's a sophomore in high school right now. He's 2025. They hosted him at the Junior Day last weekend. So there's so much into that guy that he's coming to events that aren't even really for him. And he was impressed by Tennessee and went to the Kentucky game that they ended up losing, but he was impressed with the environment, all of that. So I think that shows that Heupel is content with this quarterback room because he's not going for any transfers. He's not even really looking for a guy in 2024. So I think he's content with this quarterback room. And I also think Joe Milton, even if he plays not up to par, I don't know how quick his leash is, just for the fact that he has that. He's kind of like a leader in that locker room. He's been around for a while. You put Nico in there, and he might, even though he's very talented, he's still a true freshman that's probably going to do true freshman things.
Travis says, big difference maturity-wise, 24-year-old to 18-year-old. That is very, very true. And last week we saw Nico, and ever since we've seen Nico, he's been slim. He needs to put on weight, but what 17, 18-year-old doesn't? Yes, as far as a physical specimen, there's no questioning the difference between the two. And I get that. The more I hear about Nico, the more I think it's a real possibility. And I'm not sold on one game with Joe Milton and a Clemson team that I didn't think played like they had a lot to play for. Antone said Nico will get time after big leads. We'll see then. I think, yes, that could be the case. And when you look at Tennessee's schedule, let's just play this out real quick. So let's say Joe Milton is anywhere close to what he was in the Orange Bowl. If that's an A+ and he's an A, then he's not at any point going to lose his job to Nico or anybody else. That's just the fact. I mean, he was that good. But I think the door will be slightly cracked open at some point because I'm not 100% on board with him and his accuracy. I may be proven dead wrong, guys, but there's one game. So you got Virginia to start. They're awful. You got Austin Peay, and then you're at Florida, who can't even figure out how to pay their players, even though it's legal. And so then you have University of Texas, San Antonio, and then you have South Carolina, which I think Tennessee will be really up for. And then you have an off week. So
now UTSA is pretty good. I'm pretty sure they were in the top 25 conversation this past season. So I wouldn't count them out. I wouldn't count them out like an Austin Peay, but it would be a very bad look if Tennessee didn't handle them inside Neyland.
Right. So
yeah, they won back-to-back CUSA championships.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking them. I think they have a solid program. But when you go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those 5, Tennessee, I know it's a trip to Florida, but Tennessee very well could be 5-0 headed into the off week. At that point, if you put Nico in a lot and you see something, or Joe Milton has struggled whatsoever, I could see the argument being made to give Nico more of a shot. I know you don't want to go back and forth. I'm just not ruling it out, guys. I'm not ruling it out at this point that Nico is a starter by the end of September.
History lesson on this. This was Dave, we talked about the team a couple of days ago, 1989. Sterling Hinton starts the season, right? Goes 5-0. In the off week, they decide to make the switch from Hinton to Andy Kelly.
You know, we could call Sterl to talk about that, but it's probably an uncomfortable memory for him. I don't know that we'd want to necessarily do that. So I can already tell that Jarreau disagrees with me, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know. I do think it's Joe's job to lose, and I mean he's the mature guy. Even in this offense, like if he would have to play really bad to get replaced. I mean, it's such a quarterback friendly offense. You sit in the pocket, and if the safety goes right, you throw left. If the safety goes left, you throw right. If he can't get that down, then he doesn't need to be on the field, I guess.
But it's predicated on the deep ball. The passing offense is predicated on the deep ball, and although we saw some great intermediate routes, we only saw one deep ball to Ramel Keaton, who was bare. I'm not 100% sold yet.
In this offense, if you are 3 of 10 on deep balls, that's 3 touchdown passes.
Well, that's fair. I mean, that's fair. Caleb, Jarreau, we look forward to your coverage throughout the weekend, and you've got something coming up on Cam Pringle, and we'll see where he ends up. I think it'd be a big pickup for Tennessee. I think it's the kind of battles they'll win in the coming years. I just don't know that it's this weekend. So great stuff as always, man. Keep up the great work, and we will talk to you soon. You're a fantastic individual.
See y'all later.
Thank you, sir. We just takes that. Oh, killed the wrong Caleb. There we go. All right. There we go.
Caleb died.
Yeah. Jarreau just said, see you later. He didn't even like the deadpan joking. Travis says, only way he gets pulled if he loses to Florida. That is something to think about.
That's the circled game right there. Florida. Yeah.
So would you change your tune a little bit if that were the case?
Depends on how they lost. I mean, if they lose to Florida the way Tennessee lost to South Carolina this past year, I wouldn't pull them. But, we'll just have to see how it goes.
This is the theme song to Airwolf. What do you think?
It sounds exactly like an 80s show. This is
exactly what you thought it would sound like.
Yes.
Aerial coverage brought to you in part by AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Go to AndyMasonRealEstate.com. But in all seriousness, when it comes to Andy Mason, he is going to take care of you and your real estate needs. Over 40 years of experience in that office, and AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Andy Mason has the best prices and the best service in the industry. It doesn't get any better than that. Why this weekend is so important for the Vols, and why a newcomer might very well change their shorter-term future. We'll talk after this. Stay tuned. This is a production of Off the Hook Sports. I'll remind you that Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn is where you need to go for your vision needs, and they'll take care of you because they're local. Back in 2 minutes.
Sun, sand, and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
Hey folks, Gary Viles here, Viles Automotive on Calhoun Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, we can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Viles Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Chattanooga, we're at it again. For the 5th year in a row, you voted us best of the best criminal and DUI law firm.
And finalists for best law firm and best personal injury firm.
Thank you for the love, Chattanooga. We won't let you down.
You just can't get enough Airwolf. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. You just heard from Zach England of Best of Brock. Zach's got your back, personal injury attorney in the Chattanooga area, and there is none better to go toe-to-toe with those insurance company lawyers that are pretty well funded. Well, Zach England of Best and Brock and the Best and Brock team can take care of you. Zach's got your back. All right, so I want to get to the transfer portal players that Tennessee lost. Taven Jackson, we mentioned. John wanted to ask about any chance of landing the cornerback from Ole Miss that is in the portal. Caleb, let me turn this to you. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him or not, but also want to address the players that Tennessee has lost to the portal, Taven Jackson being one that I don't think was going to be much of a factor. Would have been nice to have depth, but I think Tennessee is very comfortable turning spring practice snaps over to Joe Milton and Nico as well. So I think that's the direction they're going to go. Portions of the program brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity matters. City Heating and Air, cityheatandair.com. So are you familiar with the cornerback from Ole Miss that's currently in the portal, Caleb?
So there are two, funny enough, defensive backs that have hit the portal. One was cornerback Davison. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, but Igbenason, I think. Igbenason. And then there's a safety in Tyshim Johnson. And so the question comes is, could they steal either one of them? This news actually broke right before we found out about Gabe Jeudy-Lally committing to Tennessee. Now, Tyshim Johnson, the safety, apparently Tim Banks recruited him when he was at Penn State, and Willie Martinez recruited him when he was at UCF with Josh Heupel. So lots of connections with Johnson. The cornerback, Igbenason, actually, he's from Jersey. He was also recruited by Banks and Martinez separately. And he took an official visit to Tennessee back in 2021 when they beat South Carolina 45-20. So there are definitely some ties to both of them. I think Vol fans would love nothing more than to upgrade their position of need that they need the most, and doing it at Lane Kiffin's expense. But at the same time, I got to say, I think usually when players enter the transfer portal, even at Ole Miss, they're entering it because they were struggling playing there. And if you're struggling playing at Ole Miss, are you really going to be able to play at Tennessee? Maybe. Their secondary was god-awful last year, so it's possible.
I think you're right 95% of the time, but you never know. A guy may want to move closer to home. He decided he wanted to leave, and he's kind of homesick. He may have a girlfriend who recently enrolled at Tennessee. We're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-old guys. So, but 95% or more of the time, you're absolutely right. I mean, they couldn't play where they currently are, which Taven Jackson left. Were you? It's been a while, but Walker Merrill, were you a little surprised to see him leave?
Yeah. So in my rankings of transfers, the Vols will miss the most. Walker Merrill's in the top half of the 14, right there at number 7. I think mainly because not including Dante Thornton, who just transferred, but among the players we know are in the system right now, we know Merrill would have been 4th on the depth chart this year behind Brew McCoy, Ramel Keaton, and Squirrel White. Now, Dante Thornton changes that because Dante Thornton is, to me, still the scariest thought ever, him and Josh Heupel's offense, so that puts him 5th. But, being the 5th receiver in Josh Heupel's offense, you're one injury away from being a regular rotational player, quite honestly. So, a little bit shocking.
No, I mean, he's in the 2 deep. And what it would be a rising sophomore, is that right?
So, I believe maybe a rising redshirt sophomore, I think.
Okay. So Tennessee lost Justin Williams-Thomas, and we at one point thought that he might compete for the starting spot. I hope he goes on and has great success at Cal, and I'm not ripping him, but this kind of seems like the classic looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. The other issue with Justin Williams-Thomas very well could have been pass protection. I don't care how great of a runner you are. They could have Walter Payton back there, and if he couldn't pass protect, that's what this offense is built on. You just ain't going to play. So we mentioned Walker Merrill. I like Jimmy Holiday. I get it. Jimmy Callaway. I get it. I'd still rather be a part of this offense. Lynette Whitehead sideline. You had at number 2 on your list. By the injury last year, or perhaps things are completely different because he was supposed to be that power running back, and they've now picked one of those up in recruiting. But you had number 1, Jawan Mitchell at linebacker was the biggest loss for the Vols, and I thought rightly so, the most surprising.
Yeah, I still can't work this one out. I mean, I get they went after BYU transfer Keenan Peely, but I think Peely is more to offset the loss of Jeremy Banks more than anything else. And so, I mean, the only explanation I could think is maybe, Caleb Herring or Elijah Herring and a few of those, and Caleb Perry and other linebackers like that have really started to separate themselves during scout team practices for the Vols and, are ready to really step into that new role next year. So that's the only thing I could think of. But then I think, you talk about it in Sean Chavis's offense. I don't think there's a lot of complexities to playing linebacker in Tim Banks's defense, or John Chavis's defense, excuse me. I don't think there's a lot of complexities to playing linebacker in Tim Banks's defense. So, isn't that one you should be able to figure out pretty easily, even as a freshman?
I actually think it's more difficult because of the twists and stunts they do up front that sometimes involves linebackers. But you're comparing a defense to what I thought was one of the most simple defensive approaches of all time. So I'm not saying it's difficult to step in Banks' system. I'm saying it's just incredibly easy to step in Chavis' system. If you're an athlete and you have a rough idea where to go, you're good. Anton saying, can Heupel fly in like Robert Duvall in Apocalypse Now with the music blaring, fight fire with napalm? Hey, I'm all for that. Just get in there. You remember that scene is still with the dude surfing and there's, bullets that are hitting Duvall about 6 feet away. I'm sure you've seen Apocalypse Now, right?
No, Dave. I
have not. My God. God.
I told you, I don't really like war movies. I got to be honest, except for Star Wars. But
Anton, would you agree with this, that the ending of Apocalypse Now is incredibly disappointing? I just thought it was kind of okay. The rest of the movie was fantastic. Give me a hit on that on the message board. Big Orange Philly's great place to watch the NFL. You can see the Cowboys get beat because they were jobbed by the NFL because they get 6 days of rest and the San Francisco 49ers get 8 days.
The NFL has such an agenda against the Cowboys.
They do. They absolutely do. And you can watch it right there at Big Orange Philly's on Maynardville.
That's not one of the teams that they want to see.
At Maynardville. Well, the system is wrong. It just did not. It hurt the Cowboys, but it's that Monday night game is just wrong. But they don't do it at the end of the regular season, but they do in the playoffs. Anyway, Big Orange Phillies on Maynardville Pike, the place to be. Hit that like button if you can. If you're on board now, it'll open it up to more people throughout the day. But Big Orange Phillies is on Maynardville Pike. They've got billiards. They've got darts. They've got it all. Cornhole. You're going to love Big Orange Phillies, and they're just fantastic. Great family environment. All the TVs you could possibly imagine to be able to see what you need. And also, the food is fantastic. How about that? Have a fantastic day, everyone. We'll see you Monday each and every day at 10 o'clock. If you're out and about, and you're not watching on YouTube, please set your notifications on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. We're there. We've got an app that's supposed to come out very soon, and we would love for you to be a part of that. But set those notifications on YouTube because we're adding things all the time, be it Ron Slay, Jacob Warren, Cooper Mays, and a big time audition coming up in February. Antoine said, I think the ending was fitting. The Doors, This Is the End was unreal. That is a phenomenal song. So you won me back over. I do like the ending of Apocalypse Now. Thank you, Antoine. Last thing, Orange Storm said, what are the chances we land A.D. Mitchell?
The Georgia transfer wide receiver. I don't think he's going to end up in Tennessee. But, I mean, he could. I mean, if you're a wide receiver and you think you can start immediately, I mean, yeah, you pick Tennessee. But given how loaded Tennessee now is with elite prospects at that position, I don't think he'll end up there. And I don't think Tennessee Tyball's going to lose any sleep over not getting him.
How is Amanda on a beach and pregnant? So I don't know how that goes. I feel very fortunate to be a male. Caleb, have a fantastic weekend. We'll talk soon. And coverage of the announcement, Pringle, over the weekend, a lot on offthehooksports.com. So check it out. For Caleb Calhoun, Caleb Jarreau, I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation